Hey everybody, welcome. Ruth Roche here. I'm Mannequin Master Artist, and I'm so excited to be here today on behalf of Hairbrained and Pivot Point with my amazing Pivot Point Bridget Marie mannequin to share a look with you that is going to be short. It's going to have a little bit of a European vibe and lots of texture. So how I have typical. How many minutes has it been? Or I can't even talk. Backing up. This is my mannequin, and I'll explain the color a little bit later, but basically this is a Bridget Marie mannequin. I've cut some of it just for the sake of time, and I'm going to be cutting the underneath. So if you look at the section that's clipped out of the way, it's like a big V that comes to just in front of the ear, just here. So all of this hair is clipped out of the way on both sides. I've cut one side already, and now I'm going to cut this side and show you how it was done. The idea is that it sits in really close at the base and it gets longer towards the top, and there's just enough hair here to tuck behind the ear. So that's the goal, to keep this shape in the back. Now the weird part, well, not the weird part, I'm weird so it's normal for me, is that I'm going to be working with the blending shears, and these have a lot of teeth. We got the straight blade, and this happens to be a Samvia shear. The cool thing about it is it's reversible. So depending on where you are in the head, you can put the straight blade where you need it, and I'll be explaining that as I go. So here we go. I'm going to be picking up my guide from the back. Let me just grab the clip here.
And Ruth, we've got a lot of love coming in. You guys, this is Courtney Bright from the Hairbrained team behind the camera. So if you have any questions for Ruth, let us know, and I will be sure to pass them along.
And keep sending the love, because we all need it. We all need love.
Lots of love.
So I'm just taking very steep diagonal sections. They're almost vertical. And I have blown her hair out. The reason why is to do the technique that I'm about to do, we need the hair to be dry. So this is a dry cut. But knowing that we blew it out straight, it's definitely going to need a little bit of reworking afterwards, but we're not worried about that right now. So we're going in, there's my guide, see it there? I'm gonna put the straight blade on the bottom and just stay put. So the reason why I'm using the blending shears instead of the regular shears or a razor is twofold. One, I just wanna have fun and just enjoy a different way of approaching something. And two, it's giving me almost like the hair has grown out for a month and all those hairs are at slightly different lengths as we're moving along. So.
And Ruth, I know you use Pivot Point mannequins a lot in your own time, for your classes, for education, for practice. Why did you choose the Bridget Marie for this particular cut?
Well, I love Bridget Marie for a lot of reasons, and we go back a long time. She's got like a level 9 to 10 blonde hair, so it's great for coloring because you can put some brighter colors on it and shows up and that kind of stuff. And also it shows the detail. So I do a lot of teaching online, and I have I need to be able to see the detail in haircuts, and if it gets too dark, sometimes you can't see it. But I use other mannequins as well. I use Erica. She's great for like trying out ideas because she's very economical. These Bridget Maries are a little more on the expensive side, but I look at it as an investment in my own future, you know, because it's really about building ideas and not getting bored. You know, that's one of the main reasons I do it. So I've got these girls everywhere, in my apartment, in the studio I work in. It's just kind of just a given. And I'm so used to it. You know, I'm sure those of you that like to work with mannequins, you freak people out because they're not used to seeing heads rolling around, you know. And when I first brought them out at home, my dog, when I got her, she was barking at them. Mainly because they're bigger than her.
They are much bigger than Annie. And how
Yeah.
often would you say you pull out your mannequins?
Oh gosh, I am working on mannequins pretty much all the time. I either have them out and just do a drive-by and work on them, or I get them out to work on new ideas. I just spent the last 4 days shooting content for my social media and for my Instagram. Well, that is social media. My website is what I meant to say. So I had about 10 mannequins in my apartment that I was coloring at home before we shot, and it was crazy. But they're awesome to color, like I said. And this mannequin is I use Redken hair color, and being that it started at level 9, I went in with a level 6, 0T in shade ZQ, and what it does is it adds that titanium sort of, it's called iron, that color. You can see I put it in shadow root up and through this area, and then where you see this sort of periwinkle blue is the city beats, and that shade is indigo skyline. So it's not super dark, but when this cut starts to happen, you're going to start to see more of that blue coming through and more dimension from the darker underneath. So that's what I did there.
And I noticed, going back to the cut, you just wet the hair a little bit.
Yes.
And you've been cutting dry. So why did you go ahead and dampen it a little bit?
Thank you. That's a good question. Because my blow dry was smooth, and I blew it with a round brush to get a little bend in it. My roots are coming out from the head. Maybe you can see that there. So what I want to do is get those laying down and flat so that I can get the hairline nice and detailed. So you can use, I've got products in here already. I've got Redken Guts mixed with the Diamond Oil Blow Dry to really take the hair down and give it some hold at the same time.
And before you plug in the blow dryer, Dee's asking...
Maybe, should I plug in the blow dryer? Do you think it won't work if I don't plug it in?
We should try to plug it in.
I thought it was plugged in.
Dee's asking, so you're using the thinning scissors to give the cut...
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. So Dee says you're using the thinning scissors to give the cut a less blunt look, but more of a lived-in look.
Yes. So we're cutting a blunt line, but it's like this. So it's not perfectly blunt. So a lot of the looks today are more blunt and geometric looking, but to still have it a soft edge is a nice way to do it this way. And it's fun, you know, and you're getting the texture and the line at the same time, which is time efficient. So even though we blew it dry first, we still need to tweak it a little bit as we go. So the water is reactivating the products, and I'm just going to turn this on. It's going to be loud for a second.
Sure.
And you could sing, Courtney. do the in-between entertainment. So I'm just going to hit the roots of this area down at the bottom. And I'm going to really hold on to that so it lays in nice and close. And I'm holding on to it while it cools off so that it's just sitting in. You can see that there. It's a little bit closer to the head. And I'm just pulling on this at the root area. And letting it cool off. Now, someone doesn't need to blow dry their hair this way every day that they wear it. This is just part of the technique of getting the hair smooth and flat enough that we can go in and do our personalizing and our detailing. So,
and going back to the beginning, Ruth, we called this a Euro crop.
Yeah.
What exactly does that mean?
that's a good question. Well, the reason I called it that is because it has, the word crop traditionally means something that's very, very short, and it's more of a European vibe. Some people call a crop like a little 1920s bob, but the definition that I learned back in the day was that it was, you know, short all over, like this short all over. And the idea of this is that it's grown out looking, and it has more of a European vibe because of that, because it's not perfect and it's not super duper short, it's somewhere in between. So it's not necessarily a pixie, but it has, it works for people that have short hair. So it could be something if someone's growing out a pixie, they want the next thing, or they're going from a bob because they're bored into something else, but they don't want a pixie. So it's kind of a in-between type of a look.
And Dee's asking if you could do this cut with a razor then and kind of give it the same finish.
You could definitely do this with the razor on wet hair. The reason why I like to do it dry is because of, like right now, for example, when I go into the hairline, I can see how much hair is there. When the hair is wet, sometimes you can't tell until it's dry. And so usually with a razor, we're working on wet hair. So it's just sort of an insurance policy to make sure that we have enough hair left in there. So I'm just going in with the shears, the blending shears, and just lightening this up. So I'm trying to make it like a sheer fabric as opposed to like a thick, dense fabric. And what that's going to do is it's going to make it lay down more so that we can go in, and I call this sneaky point cutting, where we're going in and taking that length up a little bit at a time, but softly. So you can see I've got the straight blade underneath, and I'm doing point cutting up into the hairline. So this way of, so what I'm doing here is I'm going into the weight above it and just removing little bits, keeping the shears more on the vertical. So I'm just checking with the other side, checking in, having a little conversation, see how it's going. And then once you get it to a place where you feel like it's soft, you can go in with your regular shears and do a little bit of point cutting on underneath. And this is where in the salon, what I would do at this point is I would use my mirror. I'd be looking at the other side while I'm standing here to balance the two out.
And for those just joining you guys, this is Courtney Bright with the Hairbrained team behind the camera. So if you have any questions, please be sure to ask and I will relay them to Ruth. And Ruth, for those that are just joining us, this is our Pivot Point Series professional who practice. And what mannequin did you decide to use today?
This is a Bridget Marie, and thank you for calling me professional.
You are a professional.
Sometimes I'm just immature, but yeah, so this is a Bridget Marie, which I like to use when I'm doing color work as well, because it's a light enough level. It's like a level 9. It's a light enough level that it's going to really show the bright colors if you want to use them, and it's really going to show detail in the cut. So we went in with a level 6 on the roots and through this area, and then I went in with Indigo Skyline, which is City Beats from Redken. That's the bluer color that you see there. So now what I'm doing is just elevating the hair a little bit higher and just taking a little bit of more weight out right in through here. So this weight area is going to lift up.
Dee's asking where she can get this mannequin head, and Dee, you can get that at Pivot Point.
Yes. Pivot Point and I are really good friends. We're constantly, I'm good friends with their website because it's so easy to order and you can check them out. Now the mannequins have different head sizes too. This one is a medium size. It's more like the size of a regular head, whereas some are more like, they're more like, some of them are more like smaller.
And why would you order a smaller head over a medium-sized head?
Smaller ones are more economical, and you can work out, I use it to work out sectioning patterns and where I want to, cut it short, leave it long, that kind of thing, because I can sacrifice that one a little bit and don't feel as about it as I would with the Bridget Marie. So, and Bridget Maries are not super long, so if you want to do something longer, you need a much longer mannequin like a Vanessa or even a Josephine. So, and as you can tell, I know their names. We are really, really close. So I'm just bringing this up. The idea here is that this hair is going to be long enough to tuck behind the ear.
Christina's asking, what brand of scissors do you use?
I use a couple of different brands. These are Hikari's. No, these aren't Hikari's. These are Kasho shears. And I like to use a smaller shear most of the time with a shorter blade. These over here that I've been using are the Samvia blending shears, and they are long, as you can see. So they can cover more of an area. They're great for cutting into hair when you've got it dry, which I'm going to do. And I love these. I just got them recently from Sam, and I'm in love. So check them out.
And Pam Johnson says, hi Ruth, friends from Tulsa at Z Studio.
Hey, how's it going? I need to come visit you guys again. Can I come?
I'm sure she'll say
Is
yes.
she answering?
Not yet.
Okay. That means maybe she doesn't want me to come.
I'll let you know if you get an invite back. We've got a lot of people here with us. We have Jeremy Hickson, who's a big Hairbrained member. Thanks for joining us today. We
Hey,
have
Jeremy.
Ireland with us.
Ireland.
We have Mexico. We have the UK. Pam says, absolutely.
Thank you. I feel better now, knowing that I have a place to go. So again, I'm just gonna lift a little bit more weight off of this. And just bring that in a little bit more. The thing with short hair sometimes is sometimes it has to be long to be short, if that makes any sense. So by cutting it this length first in the nape, I got it to lay down by taking the weight out afterwards. If I were to go in and cut that really short right away, it would probably stick out because on mannequins, their hairline doesn't lay down flat. So what I did was I used the weight of the mannequin, the hair, to weigh the rest of the hair down underneath because of the length. So then when we go up into it this way, the weight of it is pushing it down. So here we go. I'm just gonna start now working into it this way to just lighten up the weight line. That top triangle is what I'm gonna go into now, and we're gonna work with hair spaceship. I just went into my hair spaceship. You know, the one that you go into when your clients are telling you a story and you're doing their hair, so you're focused on that and then you forgot where you were or what your client's talking about. I forgot what I was talking about, so shut up, Ruth, and get back to work. So here we go. I'm gonna take out my triangle. And as you can see, the triangle goes to just in front of the ear. We're gonna be leaving this as we come around the head. This hair here is gonna be a little bit longer as we come into the sides. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work with vertical sections. My first section is gonna go from the crown right to the front. Look at that yummy color. Ooh, ah. And then I'm gonna take a little bit on this side and we're gonna layer it through. What I'm gonna use as my length guide is a little bit from the back. So I'm gonna take that crown section right here. And I'm gonna work towards a slightly longer length.
And again, for those just joining, Ruth, can you let them know why you decided to use the shears that you're using?
Yes, but I have to point out a hot tip really quick.
Please.
If the mannequin comes off the stand, just go like that, and then she stays.
Mannequins only.
Yes. But it's also good if you are working on a new idea and you are frustrated because it didn't work. And I've got lots of didn't work situations happening.
And that's why we practice, and that's why we created this whole series with Pivot Point professionals who practice, because practice is key. You can never practice enough.
Exactly. And you sometimes you don't want to practice on a client, right? Because your confidence needs to be there to kind of go for it on somebody. And sometimes we don't have that feeling, so we hold back from suggesting something new or, you know, doing something that maybe we've seen but we haven't tried. You know, so it's really, really important to allow yourself to play and to try things, you know, even things that you might not use, just to get the exercise of stepping out of your own way, you know, and trying something different. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to pivot my partings from that point in the crown, and I'm gonna start getting wider towards the bottom. So we're gonna work our way around like this. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do.
And Lauren's asking, why did you start cutting horizontally?
Oh, right now you mean?
Yes.
I think I understand the question. Why am I cutting this way as opposed to this way? And the reason is I want to actually create a strong shape. So by cutting this line in here, on the blunt side, we're gonna get a nice strong ends to the hair. So the angle, whether we're working with a shear or a razor or point cutting or whatever, the angle that we're elevating the hair and the angle of our fingers is what's going to determine what that ultimately looks like shape-wise. But this is how we're addressing the ends of the hair. So the ends of the hair are going to be a little grown out looking like hair does a month later. So you cut something blunt, every hair grows out at a slightly different pace. So you're going to get that different lengths going on. What I'm doing here is I'm just gonna round this out a little bit more because I know that we're going shorter in the front. And the one thing with mannequins too is they have so much hair at the front, which most people don't. So you always end up needing to take more weight out on these.
I know we've answered it a couple of times, but Jennifer's asking, why are you using the thinning shears?
Oh, great. So the reason I'm using the thinning shears is because I want to create a look that's grown out a little bit, and I'm giving texture to the ends right away. So rather than cutting it blunt and then texturizing it, I'm going in and I'm cutting it blunt and texturizing it at the same time, if that makes sense. So what we're doing is we're creating little bits of different lengths in there as we go. And the other reason I'm doing it is because it's fun, you know, to do something a different way. And I'm sure you'd all agree that there's many different ways that we can get to an end result, and each of us is going to do that. If a client came in with a picture and we each got the same picture from our client, none of us would probably do it the same way. So that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, is I just like to try new ways to do things, and I find that working with the blending shears is fun, and it's effective. So it's a time saver. You blow dry the hair first, so you're actually kind of getting that part out of the way instead of waiting till the end and cutting dry. I hope that answered your question.
Yes, thank you.
So cutting the blunt like this is really getting the length off, and then we're going to go in and do another technique just to get a lot of more texture in there and lighten this up, because as you can see, her hair is very dense. There's a lot of it. And if you're worried about the little hairs that are escaping the shears, because I know some of you are probably going, she missed a hair. What's that hair? Get that hair. That's driving me crazy. Go get that hair. Get that hair. Just let it go for now. We'll get it later. So connecting in, rounding it out. If I had someone with finer hair, what I would do is I would angle my fingers out to keep more length at the perimeter, and more weight off. And we're going to be taking this and creating a very short fringe. So we'll do that after. And, you know, cutting hair with this way is almost like sculpting, you know, but those of us that are precision cutters, you know, working with angles and lines is all very important. And I'm still using the principles of hair cutting and design, of how things work and what's going to happen if I do X, Y, and Z. The only thing that's different here is the texture on the ends. So you can create texture on the ends in many ways. You can use a razor, you can use point cutting, you can use, I'm sure, many other things that I don't know about that can be done. So you can see the length and the layers happening in there. Now what I'm going to do is cut the other side. And you can see, ooh, how the blue is starting to have a background of the dark going on underneath. Because this was on a lighter level of hair, it's got a little bit more dimension in it.
And Helen's asking, would you recommend to undercut fine hair?
Fine hair is tricky because fine thin hair, oh, hello. The doorbell sounds like a dog. That's so weird. Tell me the question again.
Would you recommend to undercut fine hair?
It depends on the look you're going for, and most of the time I don't. Or if you're going to texturize fine hair, to do your point cutting with the blending shears, you know, to do carving and slicing through the hair with the blending shears. So you're still getting the different lengths in that you're trying to create with the texture, but you're not cutting all of the hair. So you're getting a little bit lighter of a feel, if that makes sense. All right, so just continuing around until I run out of hair. Here we go. Okay, so right now you can see that the hair that we just cut on the top is spilling over what we cut underneath. So there's our graduation we cut. This is spilling right over it. So we're getting a little bit of an overlay. And with that, she's gonna be able to, if she had hands to do so, to tuck it behind her ear. So this will sit behind the ear back here. All right, what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna go into creating the fringe, and here's where we can go in a couple of different ways. Oh, wait a minute, just kidding. What I'm gonna do first is I'm gonna take this whole top section, including some of the back, and I'm gonna go in and I'm going to fan my fingers out and start to remove a lot of the weight. So my length is still there, but a lot of that weight is coming out. Going into my short bit in the back and taking that weight out. So I'm taking pretty big sections too, twisting my hands, and you can see that I'm very far away from the ends with my fingers here because I can go in with the longer blade and take more weight out. And also you can move the hair so it's in the right position for you instead of having to go like this all the way around the section. It fans it out, you can go into it and get a nice soft result. So I hope everybody's having a good day out there, getting ready for the 4th of July, getting that barbecue fired up. I got a barbecue for my balcony, which is illegal in New York, but everything is. And then nobody cares.
We won't tell anybody.
Right, I just broadcast it. But it's electric, so I won't blow up anything with the gas.
And you mentioned earlier, Ruth, that you were prepping, you're shooting Naha soon.
Yes.
I know you've been doing Naha for a couple of years now. Do you ever use mannequins to kind of prep and figure out the ideas that you want to shoot on your models?
Oh God, yes. I literally always have, at least right now I probably have in my apartment, because that's where I do my creative workshop stuff, is 8 to 10 mannequins, and I've got some long hair ones that are always there. If I get the urge to do a braid or something like that. But I also keep the ones that I've cut really short because I use them to pin wigs onto, to work on the wigs, or to pin wefts to if you want to color them. You know, I use the T-pins that the wig makers use, and it's just a great way to do it. I also find that I use them more than I use a wig block because they have, when you buzz them down, they have that texture because there's still a little bit of hair on there, so it's like Velcro. So it holds things in place a little bit, which is cool.
It's a great way to recycle your mannequins.
Oh yeah, I keep them because you never know when you're gonna need one for something.
And for those just joining, can you kind of explain what you're doing here?
Yes, so what I've done is cut a graduated shape in the back. I left out a V, a big V that sits like this, and create my graduation with the blending shear. So we're getting a textured end at the same time as we are getting the line. So we're getting both at the same time. Now what I'm doing is going into that hair that's laying over this long part in the front, and the top part that we just cut is going in, and you can literally see where the line, where the hair is darker, and that's where we want to take weight away. Right now this piece has been done already, going in, and you want to go into it with the blades going into the hair the way that the hair is coming into the blades, as opposed to coming across and going like this. This is going to create a line inside of there, which I don't want, but sometimes you do want that. So there's no right or wrong. This is just a method that I'm using right now to create an end result. And like we said before, there's many ways to get to an end result, and we would all probably do this differently. There's no right or wrong. We had some questions like, could you get this result with a razor? Absolutely. You will be working on wet hair most likely. Some of us razor cut on dry hair, but for the most part, most of the cut would be done on wet hair. So you can't see as well what's happening, whereas when you're dry cutting, you can see exactly what you're getting as you're cutting it. So you can see how that's just starting to melt in. Now, she's got a lot of hair right here, a lot of hair at the base. So what I'm gonna do is start to lighten this up, but on a person, especially someone with finer hair, they don't necessarily have a lot of density right here. So if that was the case, I wouldn't be removing any weight like I am now. So just making that nice and light. So like I said before, this is more like sculpting the hair, and you know, do we need to do this? No, it's just a fun way to approach something. And sometimes we just get bored, you know, behind the chair doing the same thing all the time. So it's fun to just change it up for ourselves creatively and do something different. My clients kind of expect that now, because they're like, oh, you started in the back today. Oh, you started in the front today. And it's like, yep. And I think that once we understand hair, we can start anywhere. You know, that's just my opinion. So you can see I'm gonna leave this a little bit longer here, and we're gonna go into, I think, a shorter fringe. That was my plan, but I'm really digging the longer stuff. And I just dated myself by saying, digging it, man. I'm digging it. And so by continuing to open and close the shears, I'm taking more and more weight out. Just taking one section at a time and working that out. Now you might be thinking, well, how do you do that 6 weeks from now? And what I would do is I would go in with point cutting with the blending shears. So you're not necessarily going to be doing this whole cut anyway. You know, you might not need to go in and do the ends like that. You might just need to take the length up. So depending on where your guest is that day, how long it is, you might not have to go in and take any weight out. Coming around the bend here, I'm just going to lighten this up. All right, so now I've got my products in there already, and I used Redken Guts 10 and Diamond Oil Glow Dry. So that's an oil and a spray texturizing mousse that's going to give some hold and memory to the hair. what I'm doing now is just working in some water to reactivate the product and to take that super straight out of it that we created when we blew it out straight. The reason we blew it out straight is so that we could actually do the technique, which needed to be done on dry hair. I'm just using my hands to pull down the weight of the hair a little bit. I mean, to smooth out the hair a little bit. I'm just doing the tuck test. Again, these lengths here are spilling over the graduation that we did underneath because we just want to have a very loose, unstructured vibe going on all the way around. So just getting some of those roots up and off the head. And I know, so bear with me because it does take a second to get it dry. It is what it is. We gotta hang in there. I know for me, I have the attention span of a fly. And I'm like, oh, it's time to go. So hang in there. I just want to put a shout out to the Mannequin stand too, because they make some really good ones. There's some out there that aren't as sturdy, reliable. I travel with mine. You can make it taller if you're a tall person. I'm short, so it hardly ever gets its legs extended. And so leaving myself that little bit of leeway to look at how the hair is flowing once we're done. I like this, so I'm not going to cut it shorter.
You've got a lot of love coming in.
Do we keep it? The vote?
The
Let's
vote,
vote.
I believe, is yes.
Okay, good. Yeah, why cut it off if it's working? Even though that's what she wanted, I'm in control. I am the stylist. I am the professional who's practicing. So sometimes you gotta be open to what's working, and it's working. So I'm just gonna go in with my blenders again, just lighten this up.
And real quick, Ruth, before we wrap up, Dee's asking what color does the Mannequin have?
Oh, yes, this is Redken Shades EQ on the base. She's a natural level 9. So on the base, we used 06T Shades EQ, which is iron. It's the titanium series. It's very cool, so it goes well with the blue, which is the City Beats Indigo Skyline. So that's what was used here. Now I'm going to finish with a little bit of Wax Blast 10, which is going to give it a little bit more texture going in. And it just gives it a blast of wax with it, Wax Blast. Oops, a little bit in the back too would be good. And then just running my fingers through it so we can see what our shape is doing all the way around. Keep it light and soft around the front. And we're keeping our group hairstyle with the fringe staying long as it is. So that is my version of a Euro crop in that it's short, it's fitted in the back, but it's very, very soft using the blending shears. I use my Sambia and that's it. So
Real
I just
quick,
want to say, oh, sorry.
Leanne asked what product were you just using?
This is Wax Blast 10 from Redken, and it's a spray wax, which is awesome because you don't have to put it on your hands. It's easy to apply, and you can just do that when you do it. So thanks for the question. So thanks for joining us today. I want to thank Pivot Point for all the mannequins that I've been able to use over my career. You know, they're a great investment. They're a great way to try things. They're a great way to make mistakes, come up with brand new ideas by making mistakes sometimes. And I also want to thank Hairbrained for having me here again. It's been awesome. Thanks for joining me, and have fun with what you do.